Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk about what creates electromagnetism. Now, this is a type of measurable crude energy or fields, energy fields. And of course, when we get into common schmucks people, that they love this particular term. But the point is, using these electromagnetic fields, frequencies, etc., wrongly called Hertzian, named after a person who did virtually nothing in the field, but all part of the conspiracy coming out of the Antichrist reality of Europe, the German reality to push their scientists on everybody that really have achieved nothing. I mean, Maxwell was the one who started all this. So we do have to understand. It's important to clarify that so we know what we're doing, because we're being misled by all these primitive scientists that people think is some sort of advanced engineering. Which it just isn't, and it's a big fraud. But the fact is that particular culture and the ones around it in Imperial Japan is pushing their will on the entire world. We all have to watch this. But I'll get into that in a different video. Most people won't understand it or are too ignorant of the facts, and that will bite you in the bottom, baby. But the point is that looking at electromagnetic fields and thinking that this is all that's out there because that's all we can find, just like it's so arrogant to think that we know what all the vitamins and minerals and everything else are in our body and that nothing is really energetic. It's another physical reality. And again, this comes from the particular philosophy of a particular people, pretty much the Germans, who again stated the fact, the Deutschlanders, the Persians, where they come from, who stated everything like in agriculture, that there are these three different chemicals there. And on a primitive level, and of course that never comes from them either, just like the car was not invented by them or anything else. They claim everything. It's kind of amusing. But the whole idea is that this kind of simplistic thinking coming out of these very low-class, stupid thinking people, and because they have put together their garbage institutions and produce a whole bunch of people that then are able to write books in their very corrupt system that pushes their philosophy out there. And they love to claim the Jews as well, because a lot of Jews tend to be German, but that's fallacy as well. But we have to understand that. And to think that, like we know all the vitamins. Well, by the way, I forget exactly when it was, but somebody discovered a vitamin. I think it was the 50s or 60s. So everything we know is in the last 40, 50 years. And then they said, well, this vitamin and that, and they're just taking chemicals and putting names on them. Do you think there's anything to that? Do you think they understand what a minimum daily requirement of something is, which is kind of ridiculous to take a bioentity, a constantly changing energy mass, and say that we all need the same thing? Is that right? Well, this is the kind of humpback idiot thinking that we run into constantly. And it is really affronting to anybody who's got a brain. And the whole idea is that we know absolutely nothing. But you got to remember, these big ticketed guys, these moron Institute of Technologies, Cal, Dirty Tech, all want to make lots of money saying how important they are. They want to go to school for a long time. They want to get hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then they want to tell the rest of the public that they kind of know something, because how can you possibly be paid for anything? Now, it's very much like the movie business, who only shoots about 2 to 3 minutes worth of film a day. So they spend 12, 16 hours shooting a movie. And I've seen it personally. I lived in the Los Angeles, Hollywood area, and it's always interesting to see filming and everything else until you actually go down to where they're filming and find out how boring that is. So the whole idea is that they literally shoot 2 to 3 minutes a day. That's why films cost so much. Because they're so self-important. It's so self-important. When the Paramount was the most prosperous studio ever, ran by Jerry Lewis, he would be able to make films quickly, simply, and get it done. The same thing to this day, to a certain amount. And that was the most prosperous time for Hollywood, by the way. And he made more money for them than anybody else because he cut through the garbage. A person who does this as well today to some degree is Clint Eastwood, who works 9 to 5 and gets it done. Does shooting something 15 times make it better? Well, personally, if I have to constantly go over things, as with anything, that it doesn't really necessarily improve it. Improvement will come maybe hours or days later. Say, gee, I should have done this, instead of thinking you can change it at the moment and some goofball director knows something. So all of these things is what makes itself important, and those are. I hope people understand that to kind of show you so you can understand how the world works. So basically, science has achieved nothing. And again, I always want to clarify the difference between engineering and science. Engineering is a how to. I built the bridge, and it ain't theory, because if it's theory, it falls down. So there's a big difference. So engineering, even in its very primitive form, and lots of things break all the time, and there's many, many engineering problems, and things are just engineered poorly in general. I see this with products all the time, and I'm sure everybody else does. Well, why did they do it this way? I constantly don't understand why certain things have been left out. Recently, I just got a citrus press, an electronic one, but the top of the press, which presses down onto the citrus fruit, which then has a turns underneath to scoop or press out the actual juice. The thing that presses down on top of it is not removable. Everything else is removable and you can put it in the dishwasher, but the top is not, so you have to manually clean that. Great engineering! Did you learn that at Moron Institute of Technology? Yeah, we learned that there. Don't do it right, just do it. So I don't know what the problem is. There's many different things. Manufacturing engineering and engineering of those types of things are becoming a lost art because we don't make no nut no more. So, but you got to wonder what's wrong with somebody like that to do that. It's a big error in making a proper consumer tool so you can clean it easily. But you run into this all the time. So don't in any way think that we're advanced. Obviously, we build skyscrapers, which are a marvel unto themselves, figuring out the engineering of it, how you have to move the loads so the buildings don't fall down and crack and stay there indefinitely. In some countries where they have earthquake problems, they actually put rollers and so forth underneath the buildings, and so that they can absorb things and the buildings actually move. So all of these things are part of engineering, which is quite a marvel to a degree, but it's still pretty primitive stuff, especially if we compare our engineering today to the pyramids, to so many other structures out there, the Acropolis, all the things that have been built, particularly Roman and pre-Roman, which were amazing and are still standing today. Anything past the Roman Empire, particularly as they decayed under the foul Christianity, there's nothing in Europe that was built after the Romans. I find that very interesting. The stone building cultures are fascinating. I should say not nothing. What happened was the Normans, or actually the Norwegians that were given the land in Normandy by the French, apparently were stone cutters. Maybe they have a lot of stones in Normandy, and they're the ones that built all those castles in England we see, the classic castles that we see. Well, before that, the Romans didn't build castles like that, oddly enough, even though they built a lot of stone structures. They built wooden forts. For whatever reason they did it, and I guess it was the fact of just making it easy and getting defenses up quickly. And I don't think they were too worried about sieges. They were willing to fight it out instead of sitting in a castle that's slowly beaten away at you. So we have to understand that. And the stone builders of previous knew some way of moving massive stones that we have no idea how to do it. Now, the classic example of all this stuff is the pyramids. And the other interesting thing is that there's nothing electromagnetic involved in the pyramids or Stonehenge or any of the stone monuments that, by the way, are around the world. Very, very fascinating. But this was a culture that traveled around the planet and used stone to build stuff because, I don't know if it was available or if it was just the fact, well, it's a good building material. And you don't have, if you cut stone, you don't have to mold it or do anything else. But it has been thought that the pyramids may be made out of cement, a type of ancient cement, and there is actually a recipe for it carved in hieroglyphics, or maybe regular Egyptian. Hieroglyphics were used for magic only, but that states what the formula is. And of course, the Romans had fantastic cements themselves, which are still in operation today, thousands of years. And we must understand that the Romans go back way, way in time. You're talking, I'm not sure what century that is, first, second, third, I don't remember that. But if we talk about medieval times, or the times we talk about castles and Vikings, which are the 10th and 11th century, they go back to the 5th, 500 years before that. They had armor and everything else back then. And of course, all this kind of stuff is lost. So these are the type of things that we have to understand the process as well. So we don't even know how to make really good cement.
Hey, engineers, maybe you should have went to the Bright Institute of Technology instead of the Moron Institute of Technology.
But let's understand there's a big difference between engineers that have to produce something, or it falls down in front of you, or it doesn't work. And of course, we have a lot of those, particularly cars, the Pinto that blows up, the Mitsubishi, what was that? The Dodge, because Mitsubishi built the Dodge, whatever that was, that blows up. And just to say,
I couldn't engineer a car that couldn't get hit and blow up. I'm an engineer. I like roasting weenies and marshmallows in car accidents. You ever try it? It's fun.
so the whole idea is this is the kind of thing that happens, and there's so many of these things that just don't work because they weren't engineered properly. Car recalls, parts that fail, all sorts of things that, we've been doing this for a long time now, and there's still incompetent boobs out there that are causing these problems. So, and this is engineering. This has nothing to do with science. Engineers are supposed to figure that out, how something fits, how well it's made. And of course, it is amazing with the new manufacturing techniques that we have. I'm assuming most of this is developed by the Chinese now. I'm not sure how all that works. When you get something from Japan, who engineers it, even if they slap on a American or German name or whatever? Well, where does the engineering and design come from? I've heard both stories there, but I think it's very interesting. So we look at all this stuff, and in general, the parts, many of the things you get from Japan, from China, in terms of electronics, are very well made. And you have to, because if they fail, people will bring you back tons of products, and you will lose money and ultimately lose your business. So I must say that Chinese electronics, amplifiers, lasers, transmitters, etc., are extremely low priced thanks to the slave Chinese that are persecuted and live in their factories.
Thank you for having slave labor. After all, the guys making the money make millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions a year, yet nobody else gets that money. How nice.
Who can we thank for that? I got a little thank you card to send. So the whole idea is that we need to understand how all that works. There is a big difference there. These scientists, which a lot of people don't quite understand, most of it is theoretical science. That's what Einstein was, a theoretical physicist, and Sean Carroll, theoretical physicist.
Well, this particle lays here, and we're not really sure, but we know pretty well. But
I'm always open to change. Yeah, his rhetoric is vomiting. Go get a life, Sean, baby. So you're getting paid hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and still a crybaby. Acts like he doesn't have enough money. With a working wife making the same kind of nonsense money. So the whole idea is that producing nothing. Oh, here's a theory. Oh, let's put that on the wall and spit on it. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things that we need to fully understand of what's going on. So when you get into science, it's nothing but theoretical. What are black? Who cares what black holes are? What's this happening? How far is the Saturn from here? It's a gaseous ball of poop. It came from Martian farts. Who cares? That kind of stuff doesn't do anything. And our universe is very dead, but there's going to be idiot guy.
Oh, we're going to go create an atmosphere on Mars.
You can't do it. There's no atmosphere. More lies by bogus people. So the whole idea is we run into all these things that we have to look at, and that scientists should have no credibility, and we shouldn't support these people past the joke level. They shouldn't be paid all that well, and this should be something that, well, you're a guy who does research. So certainly you have value. And of course, you make it as complicated as possible so the average person can't figure out that what you're doing is a complete lie. And the corruption within the scientific community and the fact of faking things, getting results from it. So
I get mine named after me. Yeah. Stuff that was invented by other people. Yeah, well, we're going to name it after me.
And of course, we're going to get that. We want to thank people. And of course, we all know that we want to thank the imbecilic group of people from Germany that supposedly did something when they've done nothing. Because that's who controls that community, along with their unfortunate, willing participants, many of them Jewish scientists, which is really sad that they ain't getting the picture. So the whole idea is that what goes on in all those areas is quite fascinating. So there is no credibility, and they're making up stuff all the time, and we don't know anything. To think that we know what the human body works and what all the vitamins are and what all the stuff we need is ridiculous. So when you find out the research that's been done into, quote, supplements, what your daily requirements are, it's really a joke. It's comical. But we use all this stuff because nobody wants to spend any money on really getting to the facts of that. And of course, while business makes trillions of dollars, we don't force them to verify what they're doing. So we run into all these things. So as we get into these problems, things get worse and worse. So let's get back to the main subject here, and what is electromagnetic fields. Now, electromagnetic fields has to be caused by something. What causes electromagnetic fields? Well, what causes is, the plain and simple, is soul force, or you could call force physics, which is what I like to call it now. Force physics creates, the forces create these electromagnetic fields. Now, I'm moving away from the term because, all science is wrong, and why should we stay with it? Now, if you want to stay with it and be a failure and support failures, well, that's up to you personally. After all, we do that as a society. We support the failed doctors who have filled up the graveyards. We support the failed police department who are corrupt and who spend all their money doing nothing. We support corrupt, rotten firefighters who can't put any kind of fires out. You just name it. We support a government that really hasn't done anything, that spends trillions of dollars filling their own pockets and the criminals' pockets that they work with. So stay on that track. We're doing quite well in this time, aren't we? So let's keep repeating the same mistakes and supporting science that gives us no answers to anything. And then they're arrogant enough to say, well, this is right. What do you mean this is right? Do something. Where's the free energy? Where's the cure for cancer? Can't figure that out. Can you find your bottom in the night with a flashlight? Doubtful. So the whole idea is that we have to understand the reality of what's going on with all this. So to arrogantly think that anything we've been told has any value whatsoever, and then they just go from using certain terminologies to naming it after some bozo because of the corrupt influences that want to be pushed upon there. It's all part of supporting a very corrupt system that's really done nothing and pushing the power and giving credibility to what is a horrible, psychotic race of people. So the whole idea is that we fully need to understand that. So we're not going to use those subtle, it's subtle. You didn't get that? It was kind of subtle. It's kind of weak. It's kind of sissy-like. Very sissy-like. So, all of these things are quite misleading to understand. So using a term like that, which people continue to want to use, instead of using force energy physics, that's what it's all about. The energies of creation are far from subtle. So you're sitting on what the forces of creation made, called the planet Earthy. So the forces of creation are in no way subtle. The fact that these energies at this particular time cannot be produced in a strong type of energy to affect instant change is a very philosophical and problematic situation that, of course, I'm working on. I've solved most of that. But the fact of using the energies of creation and instantly popping something up like a bad movie or an Aladdin lamp reality would upset the entire universe. It just can't work like that. So we have to understand that these energies are super potent and have created everything. So you have the informational energetic fields, which a lot of people, as the creative force, could be called, for the morons out there who need a daddy, could be called the God force. You know, it's amazing that these scientists, who most of them are atheists, would call the boson, the bozo particle that creates everything. From the Moron Institute of Technology. Yeah, we believe in the bozo's energy. They call it a particle because it's got to be physical, because they don't believe in anything that could not be touched. So the whole idea is that the boson particle, that's supposed to be the God particle, which is, again, insulting God. That's some sort of process of stupidity in that low level. Yeah, we found it by smashing stuff together. You know, like a demolition derby? You know, if you smash two cars together enough, you know, eventually the carburetor will pop out at the top of it. And we'll know that the car motor is run by a carburetor, otherwise known as the Hadron Collider for $10 billion in Swissyland, with all those corrupt, worthless Nazis that are the Swiss. So the whole idea is that we have to fully understand that. So these are the kind of things that we run into. So we have to fully understand what is happening yet again. And if you're going to be misled by everybody, you're doing it yourself. So the whole idea is they want to name something after everybody and as we usually go. So this is the kind of stupidity we're getting in. But to call this subtle energy is an insult to everybody and everything. It just is ridiculous. The bottom line is that the informational energetic fields, the creator force, this creates everything in the universe that interacts with psions, which are informational energetic fields of themselves, telling the actual occultons, which are the informational energetic fields, what to do. Because it is, an occult means hidden, and these are kind of hidden energies, and I don't care what they're made of. Ultimately, I just understand there's a force there that we can tap into. We don't know what electricity is, by the way, anyway. We have no idea what it is and why it works. We just use it. And we're going to use that. And, of course, having a basic understanding is important if you're going to make apparatuses that you can run off of it, like subtle energy. There I go again. That's all brainwashed. To go into force energies that you can make machines to tap into. So that's really all I care about initially. The rest of it will figure itself out over time. But if we're going to continue to look at this, what is only physical, well, that's really a moron thinking. I mean, as Nikola Tesla said, probably one of the brightest and most dysfunctional scientists out there, an old dude said, as soon as we start researching the non-physical, science will jump leaps and bounds ahead. And, they're forced to do this. A lot of what science talks about is non-physical. They think it is, we have this electron and these atoms. We don't have any pictures of electrons and atoms. There's no microscopes that show us these fields. Most of the stuff that we hypothesize on, we think it may be right, we have no evidence of whatsoever. So we do have to understand that as well. A lot of people don't understand this, and they don't understand the kind of fraud that science is and all the other things out there, because they don't have any proof of anything they're talking about. Proof is you build a skyscraper and it don't fall down.
Somebody did something right. So unless it's demolitionized, so then it falls straight down. It's amazing. That's the new physics. Falling me straighty down.
So the whole idea is that when we get into these things that are out there, we have to understand what that is. So the occultons intermixing with the psions then create different forms of matter. Maybe it's just a energy of sorts. It's just a field. It's very, very nebulous. But all that is, is electricity. You can't see electricity. How many people want to get a screwdriver and stick it in your wall socket? You want to find out how nebulous it is? Well, you're going to regret that. And don't do that, bozos. Because I'm sure somebody, yeah, Dr. Toy, let me try that. So the whole idea is that the bottom line is that we have to understand that. We have to understand that. And as long as people continue with their stupid, conservative, hillbilly attitude, Southern guys, does anything come out of the South other than hush puppies and hatred and traitors? I don't know. I don't think so. So the whole idea is that as long as we keep thinking like these hillbilly morons, we're never going to get anywhere. So the whole idea is that we have to understand that in the bigger reality. So that's where everything comes from. So this information combines together depending on what is needed in that particular time and place. If you're in space, you're going to create something that most likely is frozen. It's a matter that has to be frozen. Then over billions of years, it evolves from the frozen state into eventually maybe a planet or whatever is going on, etc., to put in a crude understanding. Certainly, that's what we have found in the universe. That's irrefutable, by the way, people. And, of course, some people, these things will manifest, and then the star energy will interact with the occultons, and that'll create different matter that functions in a warmer climate. So that's how it all works. It's not complicated, except those people that want $300,000 a year and want to talk to you all day of what doesn't work. So when you meet these scientists, ask them, hey, Doc, what's the cure for cancer? Yeah. What's the cure for dandruff? You don't know that either. Okay. Let's get some. How about free energy? So we don't have to have wars and fight over little crap that we dig out of the ground because some rich guy wants to make billions. Oh, we have don't got answers for that either? Well, why do we even have you? So the whole idea is all this is a big giant fraud. So we really have to understand that. We have to understand the reality of what's going on in general. So that's how it works. So the occultons, the informational energetic fields, and they are informational and they are energetic. Very important. I use those terms specifically. If they're just fields, because this is what your quantum dumbasses say. Well, quantum entanglement, but none of that carries any energy. There's no information there. It's just a void. Well, scientists, they're still looking for the perfect vacuum. Let's donate your head, because it's got to be a perfect vacuum. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things that we run into that are nonsensical in nature. So all of this stuff, scientists who believe in absolutely nothing, basically, think it's all random. Random 10 billion monkeys pounded on typewriters and you'll get Shakespeare out of it. Well, I don't believe that's true. And that's another hypothesis perpetrated by ignoramuses using fake numbers that they just make up. They basically pull it out of their bottom in the night with a flashlight, telling us that this type of stuff explains the universe. All based on 500-year-old theories. Because they couldn't improve upon that, because basically they're boobs. They come up with nothing new. Let's go back to Newton, the freak that he was. Ooh. So here we go yet again. And of course, that I try and put these in fun ways. I mean, that's really what they've done for you. They make up stuff. For Newton to explain his theories, he made up, was it calculus or trigonometry? I'm trying to remember. I think it was calculus. So he made up a mathematical system to prove what he was saying. Huh? I'm making up a new research thing that's going to prove that Lucky Charms are the best things you could possibly eat. And I got a new scientific board that's going to prove it to you. Here it is. I created it. Yes. Color number 6712. Hey, this is good for your brain. So the whole idea is that all the things that go with that we have to understand. We have to understand the fraud of science, and there's a huge amount of it. So electromagnetism is a very low-level common energy that is produced through the higher sources. Now, higher sources would be something like a pyramid. Now, pyramids create electromagnetic energy. People have put lights in there and other things, and they actually power it. So, but I didn't see no electrical cords when I checked out the pyramids. I went all around it looking for the electrical cord. Where is it? Took a little shovel. No, can't find it anywhere. So I couldn't find no electrical plugs in there either. What's going on? So these are all the type of things that we have to understand. So the whole idea is that the shape vibrational, the informational energetic fields that create everything, and that also shapes and symbols create energy. This is 100% provable. This is why I've totally moved away from using idiot electrical wires and all that stuff, and why we don't use wires to connect it. We do use some electrical devices now, but the bottom line is they are transmuted at a subatomic level to handle informational energetic fields. Without that, you're really just using common electronics, which are not very good for picking up any kind of non-physical energies, except, of course, tubes to some degree. But you still have to convert these at a subatomic level. And of course, photons, otherwise known as lasers. These do pick up some of this subtle informational energy on their own. But unless you have converted that energy in those devices, you're not going to pick up enough to do much with. All the rest of it's a joke, and most of them don't do anything. They're depending upon psychic power alone, because no radionic devices that have been made in the last 100 years, unless they're the fake garbage that you get from a bunch of imbeciles that make stuff now, but even that generally, none of the radionic tunable devices have any electricity going through the tunings. They're all non-electric, and this has been going on for over 100 years now. So they may have other things in there that are electric. They may have lights that go on. They may have some things that have some electricity going to them. But the bottom line is you're talking about a psychic tuning process that also brings in not only your own psychic power, but is bringing in other energies from the cosmos. So this is why these things work on a certain level. But it is very low level. It's the difference between a race car and a bike. And the bottom line is your bicycle certainly does get you from A to B, but it is very low powered, and that's what you get from these instruments. So the whole idea is that we want to bring everything up to a race car level. And this certainly can be done when you start thinking differently, but you're not going to think differently if you are using these electromagnetic technologies using copper wires connected to copper plates and all these things, because those are designed to carry electromagnetic energies. And there is some of that in the process, but it's very, very little. I'm not sure if it's even 5%. It's probably more 2% of the electromagnetic that you are sending in there, which is at a very low energy level. They are not frequencies. Frequencies are completely different. So if you're using cycles per second technologies, well, this is very different and not radionics. Now, whether it's valid or not, I don't know. We're looking into that as well. Certainly, there's been a lot of frequency machines, and a lot of people have used these, and a lot of people have failed. Like Hulda Clark, who had the cure for all cancer in 2 huge books, talking about how her frequency machines would kill parasites and other things, and she died at 71 or 3 from cancer. So all of these things are quite strange and interesting. So we must keep that in line, and we must understand the electromagnetic is quite different from real higher source energies. And to think that we discovered this, and of course Napoleon's troops found lighting in the different buildings in Egypt that, again, we're not working off of what we consider now as the ether. So these are all things that we have to look at in the bigger picture. They weren't shiny little mirrors, trinkets that shoot light into... Ooh, look at that. Bounced this off a copper mirror. Ooh. These are the kind of stuff you get from the bogus scientists who have to come up with something to justify my $200,000 a year. I'm going to write a book on this, the shininess of copper. Yeah, it works just like a 100-watt light bulb. I found this out in the nighttime looking for my bottom with a flashlight. So the whole idea is we have to understand all that. Hopefully this is clear and you get the point. Until next time.